Okay, so maybe you've heard of the Myers-Briggs personality type indicator, or the MBTI. It's that personality test you take that gives you a 4-letter code like INFJ or ESFP, something like that. And it tells you if you're an introvert or an extrovert, a sensate or an intuitive, a thinker or a feeler, a judger or a perceiver. Now, Myers-Briggs can be really useful for a lot of different things, but what can it tell us about what sort of games you're going to like? The big difference between introverts and extroverts is in where they get their energy. Contrary to the stereotype, introverts actually do like spending time with other people, just that it's exhausting for them, especially if they're with new people or a lot of people. They need time alone to recharge their batteries. And by the same token, extroverts do like time alone. It's healthy for them, it's good for them, but it's also exhausting. To recharge their batteries, they have to spend time with other people, preferably lots of people, and also meeting new people. Now, other differences tend to arise from that core. Extroverts usually have a lot of friends with relatively casual contact. Introverts have few friends with lengthy contact. Extroverts prefer action, even if it comes at the expense of thinking. Introverts prefer thinking, even if it comes at the expense of action. For the most part, people in our society are trained to be extroverts, and as a result, the extroverts around here outnumber the introverts by 2 or 3 to 1. So what kinds of games do extroverts like? Games where they can interact with lots of people. Games where they can be social and loud. In a word, party games. Taboo, Catchphrase, Werewolf, The Resistance, Snake Oil, Reverse Charades, these are games for extroverts. Lots of talking and yelling with lots of people. But not all party games are ideal for extroverts. Scattergories, for example, a really popular party game, is a game where everybody sits quietly writing in their little notebooks, and they don't actually interact with each other until it's time to find out who won. Negotiation games like I'm the Boss, Intrigue, and Pit give an advantage to outgoing extroverted personality types because they're the ones who are most comfortable putting themselves out there to make deals and get ahead, while shyer, more introverted players might feel lost at sea. People down at the far end of the extrovert scale might find it not so much fun to play 2-player games like chess or Twilight Struggle because of their need for a more social, gregarious sort of game. The quieter, more intimate feel of these sort of complex, involved 2-player games might make them feel bored, exhausted, or even uncomfortable. All right, so what about introverts then? Well, an introvert's inward focus lends itself to games where the interaction between players is relatively subtle. Deck-building games like Ascension or Dominion, and Euro games like Agricola or Ticket to Ride. A game with fewer players will also be more enjoyable for an introvert. 2-player games like Yinch or Lord of the Rings: The Confrontation are ideal, but games for 3 or 4 players could also be good, as long as our introvert knows the other players fairly well. A worker placement game like Lords of Waterdeep or a cooperative game like Forbidden Island will allow them to play together with others without having to interact too forcefully with them. These quiet, contemplative games are well suited to an introverted personality, but they might not be quite so well suited to an extrovert's more gregarious and outgoing nature. Now, a more extreme introvert, somebody far down on that end of the scale, won't necessarily need to stick with just 2-player games, but if they're playing with more, they're probably going to want to stick with playing with people who they know. A table full of strangers can be a deeply unsettling place for a deeply introverted person. Now, what if you've got a game group with both types in it? Now, 4 or 5 players is probably your sweet spot. You get enough of a crowd to give the extroverts plenty of socializing, but not so much that the introverts feel overwhelmed. And provided the introverts at the table know most of the people there, you can probably play just about any kind of game, except the kind that squeezes out the shyer players, like charades or I'm the Boss, or games that leave very little mental space for socializing, like Puerto Rico or Trajan. That's it for part 1. Join us next time when we'll look into games for sensates and intuitives.